Hello everyone. Well, I've received loads of questions, especially on the spiritual aspects of my novel, The Healing Touch. So I've decided to split my responses into different parts, and so this is the first part. So thank you very much to everyone who's read it and who's got in touch and given me such amazing questions. I'd love for these vlogs to become discussions, so please feel free to participate and comment. You can do so on YouTube or Twitter or Facebook or my website angelinakalahari.com. Okay, I've made a few notes here because I want to keep the video as short as possible. All the questions I've received, I can't tell you, they're really, really great, but I want to start with a question from Elizabeth. I will get to all the others in future vlogs, I promise. She asked, what is my take on the idea that sexual neglect is a spiritual issue? And I thought that was a brilliant question. I think she's referring, of course, to the main character Isabelle's sexual neglect by her husband. And I'm so glad she asked this question, because I believe completely in the idea that our entire lives are an outpouring of our spirituality, and that of course includes our sexuality. Spirituality is something that drifts throughout the novel on lots of levels, because of course there is a death, and therefore there is grief that affects our emotions. And death is a kind of emotional abandonment that triggers a deep need for closeness with someone, and it often leads to sexual expression. Because you want to lose yourself, don't you? And at the same time, you want to merge with someone so completely that you no longer experience the loneliness of grief. And I feel sex interprets the feelings of grief and somehow allow us to absorb it in some way. And this is what happens in the novel. And that's why there is a link between the grief and sex, which is not immediately obvious. So it was wonderful that Elizabeth posed this question, because it's given me an opportunity to talk about that part of the novel. I am aware of the fact that, of course, many religions have specific views and rules about sexuality, but I want to point out and make absolutely clear that I am not religious at all, in the slightest. I do, however, regard myself as a deeply spiritual person. What I do know is that sex is a truly important part of the spiritual bond between two people. I feel it doesn't only strengthen the intimacy between partners, it's a sharing of love, of affection, kindness, trusting, acceptance, all those kinds of things. And it's a way for us to deeply know another person in a way that no one else ever will. So it's more than the mere act of sex. It's a sharing of ourselves on every level, isn't it? The willingness to be completely vulnerable with someone. It's a merging with another person on the deepest level. And that is clearly what Isabelle found with Angelo in the novel. Now I'm sure, like Isabelle and Angelo, most of us have had some kind of a sexual experience that felt like an out-of-body experience or something, where we lose time and ourselves. And of course that can be achieved in other ways too, but as I'm responding to Elizabeth's question, I'm going to stick to the spiritual sexual issue. I feel a letting go, trusting, and that out-of-body experience type thing, for me, is the height of what a loving and fulfilling sexual relationship should be. But since I've written this novel, more and more ladies and a few gentlemen have been in touch with me to tell me a very different story. A story of sexual neglect, of feeling alone and lonely within their marriages or their relationships. A feeling of being unloved and unappreciated, and it is very painful for them, clearly. It is a kind of shrinking of their soul, and that's what hurts so much, I feel, from all the conversations I've had. This question that Elizabeth asked is not an easy one to answer, because it's not as black and white as it may seem to be at first. Of course, it's easy to say that sexual neglect is a spiritual issue, and I absolutely, wholeheartedly, completely believe it is. Sexual neglect is a withholding. It's a withholding of the self, a withholding of love and warmth and companionship on the deepest level. And it takes away from us. It takes away the bond, yes, but it often also takes away the intimacy we share with our partner, the sharing of things, and it undermines sexual confidence, I feel. So I've been thinking about it, and I wonder, is it therefore also a kind of abuse? Of course, there are couples who are still deeply in love despite perhaps a dwindling sex life, maybe later in their lives, but the reason this question is so important and interesting to me is, what if we are sexually incompatible with our partner? Of what if there's underlying health issues or different cultural issues? What then? Is that still sexual neglect? And what do we do about it then? Can we still really love someone completely without it? I'd love to know what you think. So that's it for this vlog. I shall see you soon again. Bye bye for now.